Good evening, folks. It's Tom Bell from the Unplugged Disneyland edition. I'm here with Michael Bowling, and we are outside the Anaheim Convention Center at the end of day one of the D23 Expo 2013, and we have some reports for you. It was a busy day. The bottom line is there's too much to do, not enough time. You can't do it all. There were basically 11 presentations. Between the three of us, we covered 5, but we're here to talk about them, starting with the big arena show this morning, Walt Disney Animation, starring John Lasseter
and Bob Iger, and this was huge. This was over 3.5 hours. I have to refer to notes because so much went on. It was opened by Bob Iger, who welcomed everybody to the D23 Expo. He said that animation will always be the heart of the Walt Disney Company, and he introduced John Lasseter. We all are into John Lasseter's Aloha shirts. He had several wardrobe changes throughout the show. He started out with his Monsters University Aloha shirt. He said that animation has never been better at the Walt Disney Studios. One thing I learned that I didn't know is that there are actually 3 animation studios at Walt Disney. There's Pixar, there's the Walt Disney Animation Studios that was started by Walt himself, and then there's Disneytoon Studios. And they are all inspired by Walt Disney. They started out first with Pixar and what we have to look forward to. It turns out that with Monsters University, the big breakout star was the Slug that was at the very beginning of the film trying to get the class, and then at the end, if you stayed for after the credits, you found out if he got to class or not on the first day.
So that's a sequel?
No, but he was voiced by Saturday Night Live's Bill Hader, who came out on stage, and they did the world premiere of a Monster University short that's called Party Central. It was fantastic. It was hilarious. It was better than Monsters University.
Wow.
It's going to play before the film The Good Dinosaur this summer. That was the next film they talked about. This film puts out the question, what would have happened if that asteroid that hit the Earth 65 billion years ago actually passed the Earth by? And what's happened is the dinosaurs have become, over the 65 billion years, farmers. For instance, the Triceratops is a bulldozer, and all of these dinosaurs farm the land. And our hero of the story, who is Arlo, who's voiced by Lucas Neff of Raising Hope, he is he's into bugs, and he discovers a new bug that turns out to be the first human being that they've ever seen. And they go on a grand adventure together. A running joke became that Bill Hader was also a voice in that, and he's Forrest, who's Arlo's older brother. And we went on to a film that was announced 2 years ago but didn't have the title, but now it does. It's called Inside Out, and the director, Pete Docter, was one of the people that came out on stage. This is about Riley, an 11-year-old girl who moves from small town in Minnesota to San Francisco, and we know Riley through all of her emotions. We meet anger, disgust, fear, joy, and sadness, and they guide Riley throughout her life. We met some of the voice actors who came out, and of course, Bill Hader was one of them. He is fear. But what happens is joy and sadness get in a fight, and they leave. They go to another reaches of her mind. And so Riley is now guided by anger, disgust, and fear. And so we see her reacting with her parents through those emotions, but we only see her parents reacting from inside their minds through their emotions. And it was, again, the clips they showed was hilarious. The mother's emotions, they all dream of the Brazilian pilot that got away anytime the husband talks to her. So anyway, great film. Definitely, it was hilarious. They started to talk a little about Finding Dory, that's going to be coming out. And in this case, the question is, what happened to Dory's family? Why did they forget them? Something triggers a homing device in instincts in Dory, and she goes off to look for her family, and then Marlin and Nemo go off looking for Dory. So we have that to look forward to. Bill Hader was not in this film,
Oh,
And
well, the only one, right?
the only one. And that became a running joke because he came out dressed as a cucumber to try to beg to be in the film, a sea cucumber. And then he says, I want to be in the fourth film so that I can be Pixar's good luck charm. Oh. And then the curtains open and out comes Pixar's good luck charm. And we all know who that is.
John
Ratzenberg. He's escorted by the Disneyland marching band. And he starts giving him advice as to how you be Pixar, good luck charm. And that's mainly because you have to be in 14 films. And then they showed all of his characters. And he says, and then of course, you don't blow your own horn. So then the band starts performing. There's confetti, cannons, and all that. It was absolutely hilarious. So that was great. They also showed a Halloween special that's coming up. They showed the first 10 minutes of Toy Story of Terror. And that's where it takes place in a motel where the toys get lost on a road trip. And it looks excellent. So look for that on October 16th. We then moved on to Disneytoon Studio. They, of course, referred to planes. John Lasseter came out in a slightly different shirt. He came out... I can't remember what it was, actually, but I'm sorry. But they talked about the sequel to Planes, which is going to be Planes, Fire, and Rescue. And it's a tribute to firefighters to put their lives on the line for all of us. And it's about when Dusty can no longer race, he has a career change, basically. And they had some of the voice actors come out for that. They talked about the 2 new Tinkerbell films that will be coming out. The most interesting one is A Pirate Fairy. And because that's going to bridge the story between Pixie Hollow and the Neverland story that we know with Peter Pan. And we met Captain James Hook, and of course that is Tom Hiddleston, who we all know as Loki in the Thor film. And his favorite film was... growing up was The Jungle Book, and he actually sang The Bare Necessities for everyone in the audience. So everybody was really excited about that. And they played clips from all of those films. Then, what he had changed into was a plain shirt. John Lasseter. I had it written down later on. And Planes is going to be the first in a series of transportation films. And then the next thing that they went into was the Walt Disney Animation Studios. And John Lasseter then changed into a Wreck-It Ralph shirt for that one. And they did a wonderful tribute to the last animator that was worked with Walt Disney, and that's Bunny Mattinson. And so he's been there for 60 years, and there isn't a character that we don't know. There isn't a film that he hasn't worked on that we haven't seen. And it was a very, very touching tribute that they did to him. And he talked about how he got how he first met Walt, how he got his job, which was actually a mail carrier there, and it was a really great story. The big buzz that was going around was that they had discovered, supposedly, this lost 1928 short, Mickey Mouse Gets a Horse. They finally did show that. It's going to play before the film Frozen. We've been asked not to divulge the secrets of this. Let's just say it is a 1928 short that's done in the same style of Irex. Walt Disney did do the voice of Mickey Mouse for this short, but there is a twist in this, and that's all I want to say. I would say if you're not interested in Frozen, go to the film to see this short.
Wow.
This is a fantastic piece of artwork. It's an incredible animation. We did see the clip from Big Hero 6, and it's director Don Hall came out. It takes place in a fictional city that's sort of a mashup between San Francisco and Tokyo. It is based on a Marvel comic book. And so it's about a boy that loses his brother, and so he creates his own superheroes. He has a robot friend, and together they go on an adventure. And it's a very heartwarming, touching story. Great animation. Interesting how they put together San Francisco and Tokyo into its own city. They then had, they talked about the 2016 film Zootopia that's coming out. And this is a buddy action film. And they really wanted to go back to the type of film where the animals wore clothes, like, Mr. Toad and Robin Hood, and do that kind of a film. So this is an animal world where there are no humans in a world that animals have created. So for instance, in one parts of the world, the hotel looks like a giant iceberg, because that's where the animals that live in cold weather live. In the animals that live in the desert,
we're live, folks.
It's the Waffleinator of Dr. Doofenshmirtz is right on the other side of us. It looks like a big giant palm tree is a luxury hotel. So anyway, so that's another really cool one. But it's an adventure about how these animals that are predators live together. And it's mainly a fox and a rabbit, and how they go from being antagonists who work together as colleagues into being best friends. Yeah, so that's a really nice one there. But the breakout character is going to be Gazelle, though, who's like this mega sort of chanteuse lounge singer. Looks like. Then we got the Frozen, which the animation is stunningly gorgeous. This is a beautiful film. This is based on Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. This is a film Walt Disney himself wanted to make, and they used work that the Disney Studios had done decades ago to get started. It's about two sisters, Elsa, who discovers she has a power to create ice and snow that frightens her, and then Anna, who has magic and is quirky but very courageous. She's voiced by Kristen Bell, who did come out on stage. They showed a number of clips from that film. Olaf the Snowman is one of the characters who's actually going to be the host of the holiday overlay for World of Color. And it's a beautiful family-oriented film, as Elsa almost has an accident that almost kills Anna, and so as a result she withdraws and won't have anything to do with Anna. And then she again through an accident, when she discovers these powers to create this ice and snow, she actually entombs the realm in a perpetual winter. So Anna goes to try to rescue the realm and to reconnect with her sister, and meets characters along the way. But Elsa is voiced by Idina Menzel of Wicked, and so the final huge end of the show was that she sang the main song from Frozen, Let It Go. So this was a really incredible show. I mean, it was like worth the price of admission, this presentation. So we have a lot to look forward to from Disney Animation over the next few years.
Thank you, Michael. And while that was going on, there were things going on all over the expo, different presentations. Craig's going to join us right now. We're going to talk about a couple of the things that him and I saw. First being a presentation by Dave Smith, archivist emeritus.
Yep.
Talked about Mary Poppins. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, so basically one of the big themes of this year's expo is Mary Poppins. Part of the archives exhibit that they set up is actually a lot of Mary Poppins stuff, so this was a presentation that we definitely wanted to check out, so that's why I did. And it was really interesting because, as we all know, Saving Mr. Banks is coming out this December, and it's really hyped up. Tom Hanks is in it. He might be here tomorrow, hopefully. That would be great.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. But, so they're going to tell the story of how Mary Poppins actually came to be and how Walt Disney got the rights to make it. And this was kind of the Dave Smith's version of it. So, of course, it is the true version. So it's going to be actually nice that I got to experience this presentation and hear the story and see video clips. We got to see a lot of interesting stuff, like they showed the dailies where Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews were right up against the charcoal screen behind them and doing all of their acting out while the animators were still drawing. And so it was just awesome to see how they actually blended the live action and the animation. But we just got to see so much stuff that I didn't think I was ever going to see. And it was all right there. And it was Dave Smith, nonetheless, who everyone knows Dave Smith if you're a Disney fan. So
I think one of my most favorite parts of that presentation was they had audio clips from P.L. Travers herself giving notes on the script to the writers and to Richard Sherman, which was really cool.
Yeah, and she was absolutely feisty in the audio clips. Like the way you just listened to her, she really did care about this project. She cared about Mary Poppins, and I hope that in the movie Saving Mr. Banks they really got an actor who could. I think it's I can't remember her name offhand. Emma Thompson. Yeah, I really hope that she can capture what the real P.L. Travers was, because just hearing those audio clips, she was quite a handful. But
did you talk about the relationship P.L. Travers had with Walt Disney at all?
Slightly. They didn't really get too much into it. I wish there was a lot of things in that one. I wish they could have went a little more in depth. It was very just skimming the top of the material, but it's because they did have that long development. I mean, he says it in the trailer for Saving Mr. Banks that he wanted to make it 20 years before they even finally sat down and started talking about all the negotiations and how they were going to handle it. So there was so much that was happening behind the scenes that Dave Smith just couldn't cover everything, but it was a really great overview, and it made me really excited for the movie, and I think that was a big part of it. And then going in the archives and seeing some of the stuff that they talked about in that presentation, it was fantastic. I only wish that we could have taken video in there so everyone else would have got to see a little glimpse of it. But yeah, so that was Mary Poppins. Do you have anything else to add about that? No? Okay, so we're going to go on to, after that, yeah. I saw the presentation by Tony Baxter and another fellow Imagineer, Josh Shipley. It was really entertaining. The start of it was supposed to be Undiscovered Disneyland, and apparently they've done it in years past at D23 and other conventions, and they try to just look into the past of Disneyland and try to bring it out for everyone who never got to see it like that. Except this year they kind of twisted it and they made it Rediscovered Disneyland. And it ended up being kind of a really funny gag reel. It started with Holidayland, went into the circus area. They just showed all these classic video clips of it, and they sat there making fun of it the entire time. They knew a lot of this stuff was really kitschy and didn't belong in Disneyland as it is today. But the fact that they could sit there and appreciate it for what it was and have a laugh, and the audience was just constantly laughing. And one of the nice things is we do have video from this one. So we're definitely going to be having clips go up tonight, tomorrow, of some of the stuff we got to see. I don't want to give away too much, because that's one of the things I learned today, being my first D23. It's really an experience being here that you have to come for yourself. We want to share as much of it as we can with you, but at the same time, it's one of those things now that I really understand you have to do it yourself. You have to be here to see it. But going on further with that presentation, then after that, I guess the last time they did it in 2011, they did a recreation of the Western Expedition.
Yes.
And this year, it was actually perfect, being that I'm from Orlando. They did a recreation of Journey into Imagination, the original one with the Dreamfinder and Figment. And they said right up front they didn't have video clips from all of it, just because, it was in the 80s. It was videotaped, so they never got it on film. But still, nonetheless, they used the little pieces of film that they had, mixed it up with some of the storyboards and sketches that they did and some of the still pictures, and they had the entire soundtrack, so they just showed you as it was going on through. And then the highlight was actually, after it was all done, up in the ImageWorks. They didn't want to skip over that. Apparently there was a thing that you could do where it would digitally impose you and your family on this old video that they shot where Joe Rohde was the Dreamfinder. And so they showed a video of Tony Baxter and some other Imagineers whenever they were testing it and doing it, and it was ridiculous. Joe Rohde just... It was funny. It was so funny. And, the highlight too after that, I mean, they were all highlights, but then after all that happened, whoa. Sorry, yeah, the Waffleinator again. But, okay, well.
Air cannon.
Yeah, excuse the technical delay. They're letting all the air pressure out of the Waffleinator, and it's very loud. But anyways, after everything happened in that ceremony, then Tom Staggs came out and surprised Tony Baxter by announcing that he was going to be getting his window on Main Street USA in Disneyland. And then it was great. He looked genuinely surprised. I mean, of course he was going to get one eventually, but the fact that it was there at that time, he had no idea it was coming. It was a great moment to be there, and
that means he will have two, because he already has one in Walt Disney World.
Yeah,
and that's very rare.
No, and you know, I wish I could have been there. And funny enough, I didn't win it, but they actually picked 3 people from the audience that got to go. Well, they're going to get to go, and they got dark in the entire room, and then lights came on 3 people, and there was a girl that was sitting like just diagonal from me that got it, and I don't think I've ever been so jealous in my life. But it was a great presentation. It was my favorite one of the day, but I don't even remember what we did after that.
Marty Sklar?
Yeah, Marty Sklar. Wow. I feel like it's all me right now. Yay.
Downhill with Marty Sklar?
Not downhill with Marty Sklar. I saw him whenever he spoke about Epcot 30th.
Okay.
I saw a presentation from him. I forgot about it, and then I realized it as I was sitting waiting for his presentation to start. The reason he gave his this year was because of his book that If You Dream It, You Can Do It. And it's released on August 13th. If you're at the expo, then you actually had a chance to get it early and have it signed by him. They did run out of copies, which is horrible because I didn't get mine. But moving on. So he just kind of went through what the book was about, his life, you know, in the Disney company, his time spent with Walt, his time spent after Walt, the fact that he opened up all 11 parks. And so he didn't go into too much details. He didn't talk a lot. It was kind of the same as when I saw him at Epcot. He really relies on video clips. Granted, he's extremely old. I mean, it's good. It's great enough that he actually gets out here and still participates in these. And you know, the fact that he probably only talked for 15 minutes of the 45 or the hour-long presentation, it was still wonderful. Some of the clips we got to see are ones I've never seen before. And I think one of the funniest parts is he remarked how in a lot of pictures that he had hanging up in his office and stuff with like foreign dignitaries, so he would never be right with them. Like, for instance, there was a picture of John F. Kennedy hanging up in his office, and then he just had it because way in the background you can see just half of his head sticking up with his glasses on. So he dubbed himself in all these pictures that he's the hidden Marty. And yeah, he added a lot of little insight like that I've never heard before. But it was a great presentation. Bob Gurr was in the audience for that, along with some other Imagineers. So there was a lot of support out there for him. He did a little bit of a question and answer session. Wow, question and answer session at the end. But overall, it was fantastic. I mean, all 3 things I saw today, each one of them were great, and I just can't wait for tomorrow.
Excellent.
But I'll leave it back over to you now, since you had the last one of the day.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks.
Speaking of books, I took in a presentation by Dave Bossert and special guest Roy Patrick Disney, who is the son of Roy E. Disney. And Bossert has a new book coming out about the life of Roy E. Disney, the nephew of Walt. And if you were at Destination D last year, you got a lot of the same stories. I'm not going to retell that. I want to tell one story that they talked about, but amusingly enough, it's not about Roy E. Disney. It's about Roy O. Disney and Walt Disney that this Roy Patrick told. And it's about the Disney name, the Disney logo, that somebody was talking to Walt that, you know, he needed to make sure he provided for his children. And so Walt went out and copyrighted the name Disney. Problem is, he didn't tell Roy about it. So Roy Patrick alleges that they didn't talk for 3 years after that. So 3 years later, on Roy O's birthday, Walt sent him a peace pipe and a nice letter, and they made up. And so they showed a picture of the peace pipe, which and they read the letter, which isn't something. It's not in the archives. It's not owned by Disney Company. It's owned by I'm assuming Roy Patrick and his family. So it's something kind of different that you wouldn't see otherwise. So those are the presentations, except for the big finale tonight, which was Broadway and Beyond. Oh my goodness. It was in stage 23 upstairs. How many people fit in there? 2,000 people in there. It was jam-packed. Hosted by Thomas Schumacher, who is the director of the Disney Theatrical. 5 of your favorite Disney Broadway stars from Mary Poppins, Tarzan, Aida, Lion King, The Little Mermaid. And they performed basically something from every Broadway show associated with Disney, going back to Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Tarzan, The Hunt. Oh, interesting. They performed a song from the German version of Hunchback of Notre Dame, Mary Poppins, Little Mermaid, Newsies. They performed something from King David, which was not a Broadway show, but was a concert. And then closed out with the song from what they're working on now, which is Aladdin. What were some of the highlights for you, Michael?
Oh gosh, everything was fantastic. Just everything. I'm trying to think. I think I like some of the pieces from Tarzan. Some of those the moving pieces between when Tarzan was leaving,
right,
to join Jane in the human world, and they redid the You'll Be in My Heart, where it's actually a parting between Tarzan and the mother that raised him in the jungle. So it had a completely different take than when we know it from the film, where it's the mother who's adopting Tarzan into the into her family.
And that was Josh Strickland that sang that. He is also the one that sang the song from Hunchback. And in my opinion, he stole the show.
Yes,
he was the go-to guy.
He even sang a princess song and pulled it off.
He sang the song from Aida, right?
Yeah.
About about something about clothes. I can't remember.
Yeah, about wearing fashion, being a fashionista.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So and he sang Flounder too. He was singing Flounder.
He sang like an 11-year-old boy's song. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Alan Menken was in the audience. Richard Sherman was in the audience.
And they both wept because they were moved by the performances.
Ashley Brown singing "Feed the Birds." Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it was incredible. Just great.
So while all that's going on, we also have the expo floor. We talked about Imagineering yesterday. There's so much more. Disney Consumer Products is out there. Disney Interactive. They're playing their new Disney Infinity game. They're playing their Fantasia Evolved game. Disney Store is there with merchandise. They also have the Dream Store, which is the D23 Expo merchandise hat. I went in there, and it's not just the merchandise. You also have some of your Disney artists in there signing things. Dave Avanzino, who was on our Orlando show, is in there. Robert Olszewski was in there. So it was a good place to check out.
We bought artwork by Larry Dotson, who I know he does a lot of artwork of Disney World, but he did Sleeping Beauty Castle out here at Disneyland, and that's a piece we bought.
And it must be 9:30 because I hear fireworks, so we'll move along. I also am an honorary Disney volunteer. You can go in there, you get a free bag. You put together things for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. It's great to volunteer a couple minutes of your time. It was really cool. Let's talk about tomorrow. Some of the highlights for tomorrow we're going to bring to you. Oh, The Walt Disney Studios live action presentation is tomorrow. I don't know how we're going to get all this done. Live action presentation tomorrow. That's always the big stars. The Disney Legends ceremonies tomorrow. Who are some of the legends? Do you remember?
Glenn Keane, the animator. Steve Jobs is one of them.
John Goodman, Billy Crystal,
Tony Baxter.
So Colin Campbell.
Yes, and
Yes.
John Goodman.
Yes, there you go. Did I say? Anyway,
Did we
so
say Dick Clark?
we did not say Dick Clark.
Dick Clark?
There you go. So a lot of classic Disney and ABC folks are in that ceremony, and the big finale tomorrow night. Alan Menken, Richard Sherman in concert here at the Anaheim Convention
We're going
Center.
to get in line for that right after we're done
Yeah,
here.
when we're done here, I don't know. One of us is going to have to save a spot for the live action, and the other is going to be the Legends, and the other one's going to be for the Alan Menken and Richard Sherman concert. If that was not enough, there are presentations about ABC's Once Upon a Time. There's going to be a presentation about the art of Frozen, the new one. There's a Star Wars Saga 101 presentation coming to you. And later in the evening, an inside look at the Walt Disney Animation Studios with lots of your favorite animators. There's just so much going on here. We're going to keep bringing it to you. Make sure you subscribe to the live stream. Make sure you subscribe to the Diz Twitter account at the Diz. Make sure you subscribe to all of us. We're tweeting live from here. We'll be back again with you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I don't think I missed anything. There was so much going on. This is Tom Bell from the Diz Unplugged Disneyland Edition. Michael Bowling. We got Craig Williams behind the camera, and we'll see you tomorrow night.